What sports are seen as red flags to you? Don't really understand the question, so we'll just default to sports I don't like the most. Baseball. There's too many games and they drag on for ages. Even worse is I hear a disproportionate amount of news about it due to social media. Sick of hearing about the shite umpire Angel Hernandez. Cricket. Somehow more irritating than baseball. Football. I live in the west of Scotland, which adds an extra layer of pitch to football. Being brought up in Glasgow with an Irish didn't help. Motorsport, don't see the appeal, make it one lap and no holds barred and I'll watch. All of them. Competition is a vestige of cave apes who needed to compete to survive. Now we are set upon each other like dogs in a fighting ring, in a world of manufactured competition to the glory of corporations enslaving the 99 within a model of infinite growth, like racing towards a cliff. Cooperation. The reason tribal apes survived and solitary apes didn't. Collaboration and peace are intuitively right. Competition and fighting are fully wrong. Any sport that involves animals. Animals weren't made for our entertainment. Also any fight sport, because most of those athletes turn out to be the worst human beings looking at you, taint. And lastly, any motorsports. I don't understand how we're all supposed to drive less to save the environment, but these F1 clowns can have an entire racing circuit next to a protected nature area and waste precious petrol driving around in circles. Due to the sport's immense popularity, this is probably gonna get downvoted, but boxing. Some say it's the noble art of pugilism, but all I see is two persons getting the snot beat out of each other for entertainment. Too primitive for my taste. MMA, UFC too for that matter. Any sport whose goal is to inflict as much physical pain as possible on your opponent is no sport I enjoy watching. Not doing any physical activity at all would be a red flag for me. For someone who has no health problem obviously. And if you practice, the red flag would not be about what sport you do, but how crazy you are about it, like someone said before, watching every event and being awful when your team loses. Or wins. Or practicing like you are an addict. Any combat sports really. Particularly MMA seems to attract a lot of assholes who also seem to think that any other ability than being able to fight three guys in a dark alley is completely useless. Also, brain damage isn't very cool. Stuff like karate is fine though, since you're hitting each other. And wrestling, not WWE, is also nice. Not being able to ask for help. Trying to hide mental issues because you don't want to let other people down, or cause trouble, or draw attention. Plastering on a smile and keeping your head down and blending in so no one asks how you are, so you don't have to lie and say you're fine when you know you're probably not. What do you mean with red flag? How is a sport that one chooses to practice a red flag? You all answering this crap are red flags. Now you get judged over your favorite sport? Every sport is valid and way better than criticizing other people online for no reason. You all in the comments should grow the fuck up. Extreme bodybuilding and similar stuff. I go to the gym and people like Ronnie Coleman or Arnold for example are kind of my role models when it comes to fitness, and it sure is impressive what they have done. But for me, taking peds and pretty much destroying your whole body for money and fame is a red flag. Any sport that abuses animal. So fighting animal or letting animals fight. As well as most horse sports. Anything that leaves permanent brain damage. I'm looking at you, American football. I don't care for injuries in general, it's sport, it happens. But brain damage in particular is hard to deal with. American football. I don't get it. Just throwing a ball and running into each other just to start it all over again. The head injuries. And absolutely bizarre the amount of money the league pays to convicted abusers. If someone wants to watch or participate in that, it's a total red flag to me. Here in my country, Argentina, it's definitely rugby. They have a really fucked up culture and it's all covered up by money because it's a sport only the upper class plays. I know it's a everyday sport in other countries though, so I only consider it a red flag on guys from here. Any sport. Cucking for another group of men or women to be successful, cheering over it or throwing a tantrum is a red flag on itself. And if you partake on the sport, a red flag too, because physical activity induces production of hemoglobin, the biggest red flag. Pro slapping. That sport ain't it. Just free brain damage for everyone involved. La109H0 for any uninterested. Take a look at the guy's face at the beginning and at the end. Tell me that's not brain damage. Honestly, any fighting sport. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy watching boxing and UFC every now and then, but if I meet a guy and he tells me he's into boxing or MMA, I know for a fact this guy's going to hit me or put me in a headlock if we become friends. Figure skating and some parts of gymnastics. Abusing 12-14-year-old girls to the level of irreversible health, physical and mental damage, and making them compete in the Olympics, World Cups is not okay. Like really not okay for me. Golf. Terrible for the environment, only played by rich middle-class people, and entirely invented because old white men think asking their friends to go for a walk is too gay. Fuck golf, fuck golf courses, fuck golfers. Dog fighting and other animal-based blood sports. There's a sickening amount of it in my town. My cats used to be semi-outdoors cats, but now they spend all their time inside because lowlifes take cats to use as bait. Hunting for fun. Pest control, culling, defensive livestock. Sure. Even living off the land, I get. In a number of cases. But killing a living creature, just to enjoy killing it, is a red flag for me. I know that in Australia a lot of girls don't like netball girls. I think it's because they're culturally sort of comparable to American cheerleaders as far as high school cliques go. I see a lot of people saying MMA here. I don't necessarily agree that liking it is a red flag all on its own, but it sure does seem like all the douchiest brothers love it. Baseball. The level of boredom I get is mind-numbing. Even playing it is awful as it requires almost no physical activity. How is it so popular? I'll never understand. Hey bud. You're 14, like video games, struggling with girls. The sports aren't a red flag. It gets better though. I wasn't leading the life I wanted until my 30s. Semi-serious answer: golf. Boring as hell, very bad for the environment. Completely serious answer: any sports which exploit animals like greyhound or horse racing. Car jitsu. I watched a dude get choked out with a seat belt to end a match. Could have fucking killed him. Football. The dude screaming at the players for not playing perfect while they themselves sit on their fat ass on the couch. God, I hate people like that. Jai Lai. Oh yeah folks, that little helmet is really not doing you any good when that bullet ball hits you at 200 miles per hour alt. And of course, hobo fighting. Soccer, if we're talking about the hardcore fans. If you see someone that bases their whole personality around their local soccer club, run away. Field hockey. Those field hockey girls are a tapped bunch crazy girls with a bunch of crazy friends. They are fun, though. Asphalt skiing. Sounds fun, but the sight of your skin sticking to the asphalt after it comes off of you is not something I want to see. I wouldn't say they're red flags. More yellow. But all sports are pretty boring for me, so anyone who enjoys them, I'm cautious about. That weird horse racing where it isn't horses but people with the plushy horse heads on fucking sticks jumping over obstacles. Every psycho, Jordan Peterson obsessed, corporate executive I know loves pickleball for some reason. So I'm going to say that. Quidditch, yes, it's a thing. You look ridiculous. Cricket. It's so boring and everyone at my school that played were complete knobs, so I cringe when I hear talk about it. Look out for how many times you say something negative versus how many times you say something positive or even neutral. Not enjoying a sport or two is probably more of a red flag than any one sport, setting aside bulldog fighting etc. Anything that harms animals. They shouldn't be hurted or killed for entertainment. Especially in brutal ways. Sport that has World Series plastered all over it and it only actually happens in one country. As much as I love figure skating, a lot of people within that community are walking, or skating, red flags. Anything to do with animals. Bullfighting. Horse racing, greyhound racing, cockfighting, dogfighting. Basketball and American football, which is not a football, but a girly rugby. The sport is so boring. Definitely horse girls. They are what LARPers was 20 years ago. Overly obsessed, living in a bubble. Golf, polo, lacrosse, pretty much any sport where 98 of the participants are old money fuckboys. Horse racing. I just feel like I don't like the type of people who enjoy or bet on horse racing. Soccer. I'll take all the shit you want to throw at me for it, but I'm going to stand my ground. This may be an unpopular opinion, but rugby. I'd rather my partner not get brain damage, thanks. I'm confused. Why would a sport be a red flag? Soccer has red cards if that's what you mean. Netball, American football and basketball, all boring sports watched by annoying people. I mean, a lot of breathing out the mouth? Booger eating? Or, I just don't like it? Lol. Anything that involves animals fighting or getting harmed. Slapping and probably golf. Lamau. I'm from the Netherlands and since football is a common people's sport I'd say football. UFC, MMA. For some reason right-wing personalities love to flock at these kinds of events. The type of frat bro types that typically play lacrosse ruin what should be a fine sport. Formula 1, when there's a particularly bad crash or the rain gets too heavy these days. Baseball. What kind of person actually enjoys watching something so boring? It's weird. Padel, at least in Italy, is a toxic masculinity sport for people not good at sports. Golf. I don't know why, but everyone that I know that enjoys golf is just kinda weird. Boxing, or any sport where people are basically knocking the shit out of each other. American football and NASCAR. I'm not from the US, so yeah, it's a red flag. Any sport that has a professional league where the players make millions. Fighting, blood sports, not sure why they're allowed in the first place. To many people I told, anything involving a firearm. I'm not in the US. Hunting humans. Although meeting Lance Hendrickson would be kinda cool. Kickboxing, at least where I live every kickboxer is also a neo-Nazi. Esports. Sitting on a chair playing a video game is not a sport. Fighting sports. Boxing, UFC, kickboxing. Double so for women. Niche Olympic sports attract weirdos and are socially isolating. Manhunting. Remember reading something on it in the 8th grade. All of them, unless your kid is playing, or a personal friend. Hunting, fishing. They're not sports anyway, it's cruelty. Capoeira, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, martial arts for dickheads. Tennis is not viewed in a positive light by my grandfather. That whole Republican-Democrat game they play in the US. Fox hunting. With the uniforms, and hounds chasing prey. Beach volleyball for women and those bottoms they wear. Ultimate frisbee. You need to be put on a watch list. Going to the gym so often it becomes your character. As long as no one says professional wrestling, if it's a red flag, it ain't a sport in my opinion.